The machete falls. A door splinters open in Cap Francais. It's March 1804. The Caribbean sun hasn't fully risen yet, but the screams have already started. Jean-Baptiste stands in the doorway of what used to be his master's bedroom. His hands are shaking, not from fear, from something else. Something that's been building for 200 years. The French plantation owner scrambles backward across the floor, his silk nightshirt catching on the wooden boards. His wife clutches their child. They're speaking rapidly in French, begging, pleading, offering money, land, freedom. But freedom already came. This is what comes after. Jean-Baptiste raises the blade again. Behind him, 20 other men wait in the hallway. Former slaves, now soldiers, now executioners. What happens in the next 60 days will be erased from almost every history book you've ever read. This is the story they don't want you to know. Freedom came to Haiti on January 1, 1804. 60 days later, between 3,000 and 5,000 French colonists were dead. Not in battle, not in revolution. After the revolution was already won. This isn't about the Haitian Revolution you learned about in school, the inspiring tale of enslaved people defeating Napoleon's army. That part is heroic. That part is in the textbooks. This is about what happened when the celebrating stopped. This is about Article 12 of the Haitian Declaration of Independence, which stated, "We have rendered to these true cannibals war for war, crime for crime, outrage for outrage." And they meant every word. Here's what they never told you about Haiti's independence. Before we go deeper, you need to understand three things. First, Haiti wasn't just another colony. It was the richest colony in the entire world. Saint-Domingue, as the French called it, produced more wealth than all 13 American colonies combined. Sugar, coffee, indigo, all built on the backs of 500,000 enslaved Africans. Second, the brutality there was legendary. Slaves were literally worked to death. The average life expectancy for an enslaved person arriving in Saint-Domingue? 7 years. They had to import 40,000 new slaves every year just to maintain the population. Think about that. They were dying faster than they could reproduce. Third, by 1804, these enslaved people had done the impossible. They'd defeated Spain. They'd defeated Britain. They'd defeated Napoleon's France, the most powerful military force on earth. They were free. So why did the killing continue? To understand that, we need to go back 13 years. August 21, 1791, a voodoo ceremony in Bois Caïman in the northern mountains of Saint-Domingue. Lightning splits the sky. A priestess named Cécile Fataman slits the throat of a black pig. The blood mixes with the rain-soaked earth. Duty Bookman, a voodoo priest and slave driver, raises his arms to the gathered crowd of enslaved Africans, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The exact number is lost to history. He speaks in Creole. The God of the whites orders crime. Our gods ask only vengeance. They will direct our arms and give us help. Destroy the image of the God of the whites who thirsts for our tears. Listen to the voice of liberty that speaks in all our hearts. 1 week later, the island is burning. The northern plain, the richest plantation region in the world, becomes a wall of flame. Over 1,000 plantations destroyed, 1,000 white colonists killed in the first 2 weeks. This is the famous part. The heroic rebellion. Toussaint Louverture rises to lead the revolution. He's brilliant, a tactical genius. He plays the European powers against each other. Spain against France, Britain against Spain. By 1801, he's essentially the ruler of the entire island. But here's where it gets complicated. Toussaint doesn't massacre the French. He needs them. He needs their expertise to rebuild the economy. He needs their engineers, their merchants, their administrative knowledge. So he protects them. He guarantees their safety if they swear loyalty to the new order. Many do. Then Napoleon makes a decision that changes everything. In 1802, Napoleon sends his brother-in-law, General Charles Leclerc, with 43,000 soldiers, the largest invasion force France has ever sent to the Americas. Their secret mission: restore slavery. The warfare is savage. Leclerc uses dogs imported from Cuba, bred specifically to hunt and kill black people. French soldiers burn entire villages. They drown prisoners in the harbor with weights tied to their feet. They use sulfur dioxide gas in the caves where rebels hide, some of the first uses of chemical warfare in the Western world. But the Haitians have something the French don't count on: yellow fever. The mosquitoes kill more French soldiers than bullets ever could. Within 6 months, Leclerc himself is dead, 24,000 French soldiers dead. Another 15,000 incapacitated. But before they die, they do something unforgivable. They capture Toussaint Louverture through deception. They invite him to negotiate, then arrest him under a flag of truce. They ship him to France, to a freezing prison cell in the Jura Mountains. There, the man who freed Haiti dies alone, of cold and starvation, on April 7, 1803. When news of Toussaint Louverture's death reaches Haiti, something breaks in the population. The mercy is over. Jean-Jacques Dessalines takes command. If Toussaint Louverture was the George Washington of Haiti, diplomatic, strategic, moderate, Dessalines is something else. He's harder, angrier, more uncompromising. He was born in West Africa, probably in the kingdom of Dahomey. Enslaved as a child, he still carries the scars of the whip across his back. He never hides them. While Toussaint was educated and learned to read, Dessalines never fully mastered literacy. But what he lacked in letters, he made up for in absolute, terrifying will. Under his leadership, the revolutionaries adopt new tactics, more brutal, more total. When French forces retreat to Port-au-Prince and Le Cap, Dessalines doesn't chase them immediately. He waits. He plans. On November 18, 1803, at the Battle of Vertières, the last major battle of the Revolution, Dessalines' forces inflict a crushing defeat on the French. The French commander, Rochambeau, son of the general who helped America win independence, surrenders. Dessalines grants him safe passage to leave. The French evacuate. By December 1803, fewer than 3,000 French soldiers remain in Haiti, and they're all in the process of withdrawing. The war is over. Haiti is free. On January 1, 1804, in the city of Gonaives, Dessalines declares independence. He tears the white band from the French tricolor, leaving only the red and blue, the new Haitian flag. He restores the indigenous Taino name of the island, Haiti. He proclaims, "I have given the French cannibals blood for blood. I have avenged America." The crowd celebrates. This is the moment history remembers: the triumph, the freedom, the birth of the first Black Republic, the first nation in the Americas to permanently abolish slavery. But Dessalines does something unexpected. He orders the French civilians to stay, not out of mercy, out of strategy. He needs to rebuild. He needs the plantations running. He needs technical knowledge. So he announces that French colonists who remain will be safe if they accept Haitian rule, if they work alongside the new government. Thousands stay, merchants, artisans, even some small farmers who claimed they treated their slaves well. For 2 months there's an uneasy peace. Then, Dessalines changes his mind. Or rather, he finalizes his plan. February 1804. Dessalines begins a tour of Haiti, city by city, region by region. He's ostensibly inspecting his new nation, meeting with local governors, organizing the new government. But that's not what he's really doing. He's giving orders. In each city, the message is the same: quiet, private, whispered in Creole so the French residents can't understand. Kill them all. It starts in early March in Jérémie, in the south. The French residents are told there's going to be a meeting, a census, an administrative gathering. They're told to assemble in the town square. They come willingly. They still believe Dessalines' promises of protection. Then the soldiers move in, not with muskets, those would be too quick, but with machetes, blades, bayonets. The killing is personal, intimate, brutal. The pattern repeats in Port-au-Prince, in Saint-Marc, and Les Cayes. Men are separated from their families. They're marched to the outskirts of town, to ditches already prepared. Execution squads work methodically. Some are shot, most are cut down. But here's the detail that makes this different from typical wartime massacres. Dessalines orders that it must be done by Haitian hands only. He doesn't want foreign mercenaries doing this. He doesn't want other European powers to do it. This has to be Haitians killing their former oppressors. This has to be the enslaved destroying the enslavers. This has to send a message. In Cap Français, renamed Cap Haitian, the scale is largest, over 800 French residents. The governor there, Henri Christophe, who would later become King Henri I of Haiti, initially resists Dessalines' orders. Christophe is more moderate. He's built relationships with some of the French merchants. He sees potential for economic cooperation. But Dessalines is adamant. He arrives personally in Cap Haitian in late March.
According to multiple accounts, both Haitian and foreign, he gathers the local authorities and says, "You are not hard enough. You are not committed to our cause. If you cannot do what needs to be done, I will find someone who can." That night, the killing in Cap Haitian begins. Let's be clear about what's happening here. This isn't spontaneous mob violence. This isn't chaos. This is organized, systematic, state-ordered genocide. Dessalines issues specific instructions. First, all white French people are to be killed. Men, women, elderly. There are some exceptions, we'll get to those, but the general order is total. Second, Poles and Germans who fought for Haiti during the revolution are spared. These were the foreign soldiers in Leclerc's army who defected and joined the Haitian cause. Dessalines honors that. Third, doctors, physicians, and some artisans with critical skills are spared in some cities, but not all. The policy is inconsistent. Fourth, Catholic priests are generally spared, though some are killed anyway in the confusion and rage. Fifth, and this is the most controversial exception, white women who agree to marry Haitian men are spared. That last point requires explanation. Dessalines explicitly promotes this. He sees it as both a practical and symbolic move. Practical because Haiti needs population growth. Symbolic because it represents the complete destruction of the old racial order. White women, who were the ultimate symbol of French colonial purity, now belonging to black men, represents the total inversion of colonial power. Some historians call this merciful, others call it another form of violence, coerced marriage as an alternative to death. The killings continue through April. Different cities have different death tolls. Port-au-Prince, approximately 800 dead. Cap Haitian, over 800 dead. Jérémie, over 500 dead. Les Cayes, over 400 dead. Smaller towns and rural areas add hundreds more. The lowest historical estimates put the death toll around 3,000. Higher estimates go as high as 5,000. Some historians suggest even that might be low, as many rural killings were never documented. To put that in perspective, Haiti's total population in 1804 was around 350,000 to 400,000. The French colonial population had already been reduced by the Revolution. Those who remained and died represented nearly every French person still on the island. By May 1804, it's over. French Haiti is gone, not just politically, not just legally, demographically erased. Now here's the part they don't teach you. Hidden truth number 1. Dessalines was explicit about why he did this. This wasn't a secret. He didn't hide his reasoning. On May 8, 1804, Dessalines issued the Haitian Declaration of Independence, drafted by Louis-Félix Boiron-Tonnerre. When Dessalines asked Boiron-Tonnerre to write it, Boiron-Tonnerre reportedly said, "To write this declaration, we need the skin of a white man for parchment, his skull for an inkwell, a blood for an ink, and a bayonet for a pen." The declaration itself states, "We have dared to be free. Let us be thus by ourselves and for ourselves. Let us ensure that a missionary spirit does not destroy our work. Peace to our neighbors, but let this be our cry. Anathema to the French name, eternal hatred of France. And Article 12. No white man of whatever nation he may be shall set his foot on this territory with the title of master or proprietor, neither shall he in future acquire any property therein. This was policy, written, formal, official. Hidden truth number 2. Dessalines believed this was the only way to ensure Haiti's survival. He'd seen what happened in other territories. In Guadeloupe, when enslaved people rebelled in 1802, Napoleon crushed them and restored slavery. Thousands executed. The rest returned to bondage. Dessalines looked at that and thought, that will never happen here. The only way to make sure slavery could never return? Remove everyone who might reimpose it. Remove everyone who might welcome a French invasion. Remove everyone whose loyalty might waver when French ships appeared on the horizon. In his mind, this wasn't revenge, though it was that too. This was insurance. Hidden truth number 3. Most historians don't call this genocide. Wait, what? Genocide has a specific legal definition established by the UN in 1948. It requires intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group in whole or in part. Most scholars argue the 1804 massacre doesn't qualify because it targeted French nationals specifically, not all whites. Poles, Germans, and Americans were spared. It was geographically limited to Haiti. It had a political, military rationale, not a purely racial one. Instead, most historians classify it as ethnic cleansing, mass killing, or politicide. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The line between genocide and ethnic cleansing is often thin, technical, and cold comfort to the dead. Hidden truth number 4. The French never officially recognized Haiti's independence. Not in 1804, not for 20 years. The French government refused to accept Haiti's existence. They planned new invasions, seriously, multiple times, but never had the resources or political will to execute them after Napoleon's European wars drained France. In 1825, France did something arguably worse than invasion. They sent warships to Haiti and demanded payment, 150 million francs, later reduced to 90 million. This was compensation, not for the destroyed property or the war, but for the lost value of the slaves themselves. Haiti was forced to pay for its own freedom. The debt wasn't fully paid off until 1947. Let me say that again. Haiti paid France for over 120 years for the crime of liberating itself. Modern economists estimate this debt and the interest and the lost economic development cost Haiti between $21 billion and $115 billion in today's money. This is why Haiti is poor today, not because of some inherent failing, because they were financially strangled for more than a century as punishment for being free. Hidden truth number 5. Some Haitians, even at the time, thought Dessalines went too far. Henri Christophe, who reluctantly followed the orders in Cap-Haïtien, later expressed regret, not publicly, that would be political suicide, but in private letters to foreign diplomats, he suggested the massacres were unnecessary and harmful to Haiti's international standing. Alexandre Pétion, who controlled southern Haiti after Dessalines' death, tried to rebuild relationships with foreign whites. He welcomed merchants, offered land to Polish refugees, and attempted a more conciliatory foreign policy. But they didn't dare to criticize Dessalines openly during his lifetime. He was too powerful, too fearsome, and perhaps, in the brutal calculus of revolutionary politics, too necessary. October 17, 1806, 2.5 years after the massacres. Jean-Jacques Dessalines is riding near Port-au-Prince when he's ambushed. His own generals have turned on him. Alexander Pétion and Henri Christophe, the two men who followed his orders in 1804, are behind the plot. They shoot him off his horse. Then they mutilate his body. His corpse is torn apart by the crowd. Some reports say his heart was cut out and paraded through the streets. The man who made Haiti truly independent dies at the hands of fellow Haitians. Why? Multiple reasons. He'd declared himself Emperor Jacques I. Many saw this as betraying Republican ideals. He was forcing former slaves back to plantation work under a harsh labor code. He was autocratic, paranoid, brutal even to his own people. But there's another reason historians whisper about: the massacres. The international isolation they caused, the economic devastation, the inability to trade normally with any European power or the United States, the total diplomatic quarantine. Haiti became a pariah state. The first Black Republic was treated as a threat to the entire colonial world order, which it was. The United States, a nation founded on the idea that all men are created equal, refused to recognize Haiti until 1862. 60 years. Why? Because Southern slaveholders in Congress were terrified that recognizing Haiti would inspire American slaves to similar action. France, Britain, Spain all refused recognition. Haiti stood alone, free but alone. And so the question echoes through history. Was Dessalines right? Did the massacres secure Haiti's independence? Or did they doom Haiti to the isolation and poverty that followed? Here's where it gets complicated, because this isn't a simple story with a clear moral. The case for Dessalines. Historian Philippe Girard argues that Dessalines genuinely believed another French invasion was imminent and probable, and he wasn't wrong to think that. France was actively planning it. Napoleon only abandoned the idea because of his European wars, not because he accepted Haitian independence. If thousands of French colonists had remained in Haiti, they would have been a fifth column, ready to welcome French soldiers, ready to provide intelligence, ready to help restore colonial rule. The massacres eliminated that possibility. Harsh? Yes. Effective? Also yes. Moreover, in the context of what the French had done during the Revolution, the drownings, the dogs, the chemical warfare, the execution of prisoners, the betrayal and murder of Toussaint, the massacres can be seen as proportional response. Not morally justified, perhaps, but contextually understandable. Remember, this was a population that had been literally worked to death for generations. A population that had watched family members fed to dogs, seen children sold away, experienced torture as routine. The rage didn't come from nowhere. The case against Dessalines. Other historians, like Jeremy Popkin, argue that the massacres were strategically unnecessary and morally indefensible. By early 1804, the French were already evacuating. Napoleon had already shifted his focus to Europe. The threat of invasion, while real in theory, was minimal in practice. Moreover, many of the French colonists who stayed were the least threatening: small merchants, artisans, even some who'd expressed sympathy for the revolution. The plantation owners, the truly dangerous ones, had mostly already fled. Killing civilians, including women, elderly, and people who'd committed no personal violence, can't be justified by military necessity. It was state-organized murder. And the consequences were severe: total international isolation, economic collapse, civil war. Haiti split between Christophe's north and Pétion's south after Dessalines' death, and the beginning of the cycle of political instability that plagued Haiti for the next 2 centuries. So who's right?
Maybe both? Maybe neither. Maybe this is one of those historical moments where there were no good options, only catastrophic ones and slightly less catastrophic ones. Maybe this is what happens when an oppression so total, so violent, so dehumanizing is finally overthrown. The pendulum doesn't swing back to center. It swings all the way to the opposite extreme. Here's where it matters today. First, Haiti is still paying for 1804. Not literally, they finished paying France in 1947, but the economic devastation from that debt never ended. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Life expectancy, 64 years. Per capita GDP, around $1,800. 60% of the population lives below the poverty line. And much of that traces directly back to the international isolation that began with the massacres and was formalized by the 1825 debt. France has never apologized. They've never offered reparations. In 2003, President Jean-Bertrand Aristide formally demanded France repay the extortion money. France refused and helped orchestrate his overthrow weeks later. Second, the massacre has been weaponized by racists for over 200 years. White supremacists and slavery defenders used the 1804 massacre as propaganda. They said, "See, this is what happens when black people get power. This is what happens when slavery ends. Chaos, violence, massacre." This rhetoric was used to justify slavery in the American South right up to the Civil War. It was used to oppose emancipation. It was used to justify Jim Crow. Even today, white nationalist groups cite the Haitian Revolution, and specifically the 1804 massacre, as evidence that racial diversity leads to violence. This is, of course, a complete inversion of the truth. The violence came from slavery, not from its ending. The violence came from centuries of unimaginable brutality, not from the reaction against that brutality. But propaganda doesn't care about truth. Third, the massacre has created a historical silence in Haiti itself. Haitians are rightfully proud of the revolution. The Haitian Revolution is one of the most remarkable human achievements in history. Enslaved people defeating 3 European empires and establishing a republic based on universal freedom. This massacre is complicated. Some Haitian historians emphasize the context and argue it was necessary. Others quietly acknowledge it was a tragedy, but resist dwelling on it because they don't want to give ammunition to Haiti's critics. Others still argue it should be confronted directly and honestly. It's a national trauma that's never been fully processed. Fourth, the question of revolutionary violence remains unsolved. Was Dessalines a liberator or a war criminal? Can he be both? Can you judge people in the past by the moral standards of the present? If you can't, does that mean anything goes in war? If you can, does that mean condemning every revolution that ever involved violence, which is almost all of them? These aren't abstract questions. We still grapple with them today. In post-colonial nations across Africa and Asia, in post-communist Eastern Europe, in countries that experienced genocide or ethnic conflict, in movements for justice that sometimes turn to violence. What do you do with rage, justified, earned, righteous rage? What do you do when you win and your oppressors are still in your country and you know they're waiting for a chance to put the chains back on? History doesn't answer that question. It just shows us what people chose and what those choices cost. Let's zoom out one more time. The Haitian Revolution, including the massacre, wasn't an isolated event. It was part of the age of revolution. America in 1776, France in 1789, Haiti in 1791, Latin America in the 1810s and 1820s. All of these revolutions involved massive violence. The American Revolution? Brutal guerrilla warfare. Loyalists tarred and feathered, their property seized. Thousands fled to Canada and Britain. The French Revolution? The Terror. Tens of thousands executed by guillotine, entire regions depopulated in civil war. The Vendée Genocide, where Republican forces killed between 150,000 and 450,000 civilians, peasants who supported the monarchy. The Latin American revolutions? Bolivar's war in Venezuela featured mass executions on both sides. War to the death, his explicit policy, whole towns destroyed. Every single one of these revolutions involved killing civilians, collective punishment, ethnic violence, or political terror. But here's the difference. The others got to write the history books. In America, the violence is downplayed. We celebrate the revolution and gloss over the ugly parts. In France, the terror is taught as a regrettable excess, but the revolution itself is still glorious. In Latin America, Bolivar is a hero, full stop. But Haiti? Haiti is remembered for the violence, not the achievement. Why? Because Haiti was a black revolution. Because Haiti directly threatened the entire structure of racial capitalism that underpinned the Atlantic world. Because Haiti proved that black people could win, could govern, could build a nation, and that scared the hell out of every white-dominated society on Earth. So they erased Haiti, they isolated Haiti, they impoverished Haiti, and they reduced Haiti's revolution to a tale of barbarism, ignoring the barbarism that caused it. The truth is more complex. The Haitian Revolution was, simultaneously, one of the greatest liberation movements in human history, a military achievement that rivals any in the 19th century, a direct challenge to the Enlightenment's selective humanism, a brutal, vengeful, tragic massacre of thousands of civilians. It can be all of those things at once. History isn't clean. It doesn't fit into the boxes we want it to fit into. So what do we do with this? How do we remember 1804? I think we do it honestly. We don't sanitize it. We don't excuse it. We don't pretend the violence didn't happen or wasn't horrible. But we also don't reduce it to simple villainy. We don't use it to discredit the revolution. We don't let it erase the context of centuries of slavery and colonial violence. We hold two truths at the same time. First truth. What the enslaved people of Haiti achieved is one of the greatest triumphs of human freedom in history. Against impossible odds, they broke their chains and created the first Black Republic. They proved that no tyranny is so complete that it can't be overthrown. They inspired enslaved and colonized people across the world. Second truth. In that triumph, they committed atrocities. They killed thousands of people, many of whom were guilty only of being born French, of staying in a country they considered home. The moral stain of those killings doesn't wash away just because the cause was just. Both things are true. And maybe that's the real lesson. Revolutions are born from violence and they breed violence. The oppressed become oppressors. The liberators become executioners. The cycle continues. The only way to break it is to face it. To look at 1804 and say, yes, this happened. Yes, it was understandable. Yes, it was also wrong. Yes, we honor the liberation. Yes, we mourn the dead. All of it. The whole truth. On April 7, 1803, Toussaint Louverture died in a French prison, betrayed and abandoned. 1 year later, on April 7, 1804, the last of the massacres were ending. Different men made different choices about what freedom would mean. One tried mercy, one tried vengeance. One died a prisoner, one died an emperor. Neither lived to see the Haiti they fought for become stable, prosperous, or at peace. Because maybe that's the cost. Maybe freedom doesn't come clean. Maybe it never does. The chains broke in Haiti in 1804, but the scars remain. This is the truth they tried to bury, not because it makes Haiti look bad, but because it makes all of us ask questions we're afraid to answer. What would you do? If you'd been enslaved your whole life, if you'd watched your children sold, if you'd felt the whip every day for decades, if you'd finally miraculously impossibly won your freedom, and your former masters were still there, in your country, waiting, what would you do? History doesn't judge from a distance. It judges from inside the fire.